only going to find the surface area of prisms in 6th grade. In different grades, you'll be doing pyramids as well. But right now, we're just focusing on prisms and and that we're only doing rectangular prisms and triangular prisms. We're not going to be doing like hexagonal prisms or anything crazy like that because we have to find the area of them. And in 6th grade, we mainly just deal with rectangles and triangles for area or parallelograms, but those are rectangles as well. So surface area is the area outside of a 3D object. So it's like the cardboard of a tissue box. It is like the plastic that goes around the outside of your water bottle. It is the amount of wrapping paper that you use to wrap a gift. So it's the amount of space that is covering the outside of the object. Okay. And in order to find the surface area of the outside of a 3D object, we have to find the surface area of every single side, top, bottom, front, back, left and right side, and add all of those up. Now today I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can do that. The first one is going to build off of what we did yesterday, which is drawing the net. And then for the exact second example, I'm going to show you how we can use, a different method in order to get the same exact answer. Okay, but first let's start by drawing the net because we did that yesterday. So if this is a rectangular prism, we're going to fold down that front rectangle. And in rectangular prisms, there are 4 rectangles going down the middle. Let's see if I can change. There we go. Okay, and the base of that front rectangle is a 7. So we're going to put in a 7 for the base of all of those rectangles. All right. Then we look for the height of that first rectangle, and the height of this first rectangle is 3. And remember, we skip every other. So 3, skip, 3, skip. Now we are looking for the number that we have not used yet, which is 4, and we're filling that in. Last but not least, we have to make our little side pieces. The height of that side is already 4, so we have to figure out what the base is, and that is 3. Copy paste that over to this side. So we've got 4 going up, 3 going across. All right. Now what we're doing is we're just going to find the area of each one of those shapes and add them up. So for this first rectangle, we have 7 times 3. Well, 7 times 3 is 21. Second rectangle, we have 7 times 4. 7 times 4 is 28. Then again, we have 7 times 3, which is the same as the first one, so 21, and 7 times 4, which is the same as the second one we did, which is 28. Last but not least, we have to do our 2 sides, so 4 times 3 is 12, and 4 times 3 is 12. Remembering that for the area of a rectangle, it's just base times height, so you're just multiplying the base times the height. Now, if we want the surface area of this whole entire shape, we do have to add all of those up. So I'm going to group some of those together. So I'm going to say 12 plus 12 is 24. So I've got 24. I've got 21 plus 21. And if I didn't know what that was, I could group those together to the side. That would be 42. And then I've got 28 plus 28. Which are these ones. 8 plus 8 is 16, 4, 5, so 56. Once I grouped all those up, I can add them together. I've got a 4 plus a 2 plus a 6. 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 6 is 12. 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 1 is 7, plus 5 is 12. So 122, and then this is surface area, so 122 inches squared. And that's going to be how much space takes up all the outside of this shape. Okay. All right, next we have another rectangular prism, and I'm going to show you the second method. So the first method would be to just draw the net, find the area of each rectangle. The second method is for more visual students, like students that do really well visualizing things. and that's just puzzle pieces. And I'm going to cross this off because I'm going to have to use this whole space to show the work. But we're going to do the puzzle piece method. And what we know is that the front and the back of this shape are exactly the same. This front and back are exactly the same. So we're just going to find the area using the dimensions we're given of the front and the back. Multiply it by 2. That way we have a front and a back. And we'll know that we just have to add that number later. So looking at this front rectangle right here, we would do 9 times 5. So we just write 9 times 5 is 45. Then we have a front and a back, so we just multiply that by 2 to get 90. Okay. Now we have a top and a bottom. Remember, opposite sides are always the same, so whatever's on bottom is also on top. So next we would do our top and bottom. And for that top and bottom, I'm going to do 9 times 6. And 9 times 6 is 54. And I have 2 of them, one on top, one on bottom, so I have to multiply that by 2. Well, 50 times 2 is 100. 4 times 2 is 8, so that would be 108. Okay. Last but not least, I have my left and my right sides. That are these ones right here. So I'd have 6 as my base and 5 as my height. So my left and my right are going to be 6 times 5, which is 30. I have a left and a right, so I multiply that by 2, which is 60. Last thing I would do is then just add up these 3 numbers. So I'm going to find space on the side. 90 plus 108 would be 198 plus 60 will give me a final answer of 258 meters squared. Okay, now if we would have drawn the net, like this example here, and found the area of every box, we also would have gotten 258. So it does not matter which method you like better. If you're like Mystic and I have no idea where you got these numbers right here, that's okay. You can do it with the net every single time. Okay, there's never going to be a question on a test or something that's like you have to use the puzzle pieces to solve. Okay, however, on a test, you might have a picture of a net where you'd have to find it. But to me, that one is more straightforward because you're just finding the area of every single rectangle and adding them up. But this is a shorter method for if we're understanding how to visualize and where we're getting these numbers from. So that's the surface area of rectangular prisms. You're just finding the area of every single rectangle, adding them up. Triangular prisms is very similar. Remembering that surface area is the area outside of the 3D object. So in a triangular prism, again, we're talking about like how much cardboard covers it, how much wrapping paper would cover that box, how much like tents. For example, a tent would look something like this example down here. So how much fabric is needed to make the tent. Okay, those are all surface area because it's the amount of space outside or around the outside of a 3D object. Remembering that a triangular prism only has 3 rectangles and 2 triangles, and those 3 rectangles are not always the same size. So yes, we can do puzzle pieces with this one, but there's no like shortcut of doing like times 2 because not 2 rectangles are always the same. Okay, so let's start off by doing our net. We know we've got 3 rectangles going down. I don't know why my pen keeps glitching, so I'm sorry. Those are not supposed to be dotted lines. And we're going to fold out over along the right side because we have to fold out the rectangles. We can't fold out the triangle, so we can't use 12 as a space. We have to fold out a rectangle because that's where our rectangles are. So we've got 8 at the base of our rectangles. Okay, this yellow one would then have a height of 5. Attached to this left one would be the bottom, and we've got 8 times 12. And then over here, the blue side, right here, we have 8 down at the bottom, 13 going up the side. Last thing we have to do is our triangle. It is a right triangle, so I'm going to draw a straight line and then a diagonal going back up. Looking at that triangle, we have 12 at the base, which we already have measured for our base. And then we just have to look for what that straight height is. That straight height is not labeled in the front, but it is labeled in the back. So that straight height would be 5. In a right triangle, these two numbers do not have to match. Wait, yes, in a right triangle, they do have to match. So we have to actually flip. So this would be our 13, and this would be our 5. What I should have done is draw my right triangle this way, because then that could have been 5 right there. But since I didn't, I have to switch where that 13 and 5 go, because those numbers do have to match in a right triangle. When it's not a right triangle, that's when they don't have to match, because they're the slanted, not the straight heights. Okay, so now just like before, we're going to find the area of every single rectangle and triangle. And to speed it up, I'm just going to kind of let you know like what 8 times 13 is. So for this first rectangle, we would do 8 times 13. 8 times 13 is equal to 104. If this was a test or something, you would just pull it to the side and multiply it out. You're going to get 104. Then in the middle, we've got 8 times 12. 8 times 12 is on a multiplication chart, so you would be able to use that on a test, but that would be 96. And last rectangle is 8 times 5, which is 40. Now we've got our two triangles, remembering that when we do the area of a triangle, base times height, and then divided by 2. So I've got 12 times 5 is 60. 60 divided by 2 would be 30. Same thing over here. 12 times 5 is 60. 60 divided by 2 would be 30. Last step, I just have to add all of those up. So I'm going to group them together. I'm going to add 104 plus 96 to get 200. So I got my 104, got my 96. Now I have my 40 is 240. I'm going to group together my 230s to make a 60. Add that together, and that's going to give me 300. So our final answer here is going to be 300 centimeters squared. All right. Same thing here. Okay. We can use puzzle pieces to find the surface area of a triangular prism. I think it's way harder, whereas a rectangular prism, I think it's a little easier, but with triangular prism, I think it's really hard. But I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, we have to do every rectangle separately. So I'm going to start with my right rectangle. So my right side is going to be 10 times 9. And it's a rectangle, so we don't divide by 2. We're getting 90. Okay, then I'm going to go over to my left side. And this is why I don't love it, because these are really hard to like picture back here. Okay, but you're going to notice that height of that rectangle is 10 again. So you're going to have 2 of those. So your left side is going to be 90 as well. This is one of those situations where our 2 rectangles are the same. And then we have a bottom. And the bottom is 16 times 9. And 16 times 9 is equal to, we could pull it over to the side if we weren't sure. $144. Then last but not least, we have the triangles. And remember, in a triangular prism, we have a triangle in the front and a triangle in the back, because remember, prisms have 2 bases, and those triangles are our bases. So then I'm going to say my triangles. And remembering that triangles are base times height divided by 2. So when I'm looking at that, I've got 16 times 6 divided by 2. I like to divide one of these numbers first just to keep them small. So then I would have 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 times 6 is 48. Remembering that I have 2 of those triangles, so I need to double it. You could have also done 16 times 6 and noticed, well, Miss Lakin, we have to double it because there's 2 of them. So can I just not divide by 2? Yes, you absolutely can do it that way. As long as you remember that it's only because we have 2 of them. It's not because for a triangle we only do base times height. All right, next thing we would do is add them up. So I've got 90 plus 90. Well, I'll drop off those zeros and do 9 plus 9, which I know is 18. Add in the 0, and I'd have 180. Then I'm going to group together my 48s. I'm going to add those. Which is 96. I'm going to add those up to get an answer. 0 plus 6, 6. 17, 276. That's a 6. And then I've got my 144 that I have to add to that. Surface area is a lot of work. That's why you're going to notice, like tonight for homework, you don't have many problems because they do take a while. And I understand that. So you're not going to be given like 12 homework problems of these types because I know that they do take a while. Carry my 1, 12. So our surface area of this triangular prism would be 420 meters squared. All right, and that is how you find the surface area. So again, same with triangular prisms. If you're like, Miss Lakin, I don't understand when you got any of these numbers, don't do it this way. That's okay. You can do it from the net, which we learned yesterday. Okay, so it's totally up to you which method your brain pairs best with.